Hello, and welcome to Appleton Engaged. I'm your host, Timber Smith, Special Assistant to the Mayor for Community, Culture, and Belonging.
I'm Mayor Jake Woodford, sitting in today.
And Appleton Engaged is a podcast that explores the many people, organizations, and resources that make our community a great place to live, work, and play. So whether you're a longtime resident or just getting to know Appleton, join us as we learn more about our community together.
So thank you for having me on the podcast with you, Timber. It's an honor. First time participant, but long-time listener. So it's great to be with you on the podcast. And we have a couple of colleagues here from the city of Appleton with us, and I want to take the opportunity to welcome them. What we're here to do today is talk a little bit about some of the impacts that we've been seeing here in the local level, or really answering some of the questions and concerns we've been hearing in the wake of the presidential transition. There's been a lot of concern in our community and across the country, and we want to talk today about what's happening here in Appleton and share a little bit more about the work that we do every day here in the city of Appleton as a local municipal government. And I think it's important to note right up front that we have as many questions, maybe more questions than answers, and we don't here at the local level have really any special access to information. So when things are happening at the federal level, regardless of the administration, we are rarely learning about it any sooner than the general public is through media. And so we do a lot of real-time processing in local government, and I think it's important just to share that. I think sometimes folks think, well, every level of government is strongly integrated and connected, and there's a lot of information sharing going on about programmatic direction or policy. And the reality is that, and this is truly irrespective of administration, at least in my experience in office, a lot of times we're learning about it the same time you are. When you get your notification on your phone or you see the cryon on TV, you're learning about it pretty much the same time we are. So I think it's important to note that right up front, that there's a lot of churn and there's a lot of discussion going on at the national level. And here at the city of Appleton, we're in that real-time processing too.
I am so excited about this conversation because A, who we get to talk to and the departments that they represent, they're such important departments. It's awesome when we get the opportunity to demystify and to clarify. Mm-hmm. So this week's guests are Polly Olsen, Chief of the Appleton Police Department, and Chuck Sepers, Ph.D., our Health Officer and Public Health Director for the City of Appleton. Hey, you two, how's it going?
Greetings.
Hey there, Timber. Good to see you.
I can tell this is going to be a good time. If you two don't mind, can you please tell us a little something about yourself and your association with Appleton and the surrounding Fox Cities region? And Chuck, can we start with you?
Sure, we can start with me. Just say I moved to the area about 3 years ago, really for this role. And even though I'm not from Appleton, not from the state of Wisconsin, it's been a very enjoyable time. I really enjoy getting to, get out and hike, go up north, do some camping that way, run the dogs in the water, all the things, right? And I just love being in the city of Appleton.
I'm not going to lie, Chuck, you fit right in. It didn't take you long either.
I think the moment I knew I was a Wisconsin resident, I was shoveling snow. It was about 70 degrees. I was wearing shorts, and I was very hot. And so
what?
It was a crazy 2022, 2023 winter. So, but I think I was chopping firewood like that next week, and so it all just kind of came together. It's like I feel like a true Wisconsinite at this point.
Polly, can you share a little something about yourself?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to top that, but I'm certainly going to try. Unlike Chuck, I was born and raised here in Appleton. Many generations family here. So my parents were born and raised here. My husband was born and raised here. His family was born and raised here. So, and our kids attended school and graduated from Appleton Public School as well. So just a lot of deep roots in this community. I can't think of any place else, quite honestly, that I would rather live in and have raised a family in, and hopefully someday maybe grandkids as well, if I'm lucky. So, yeah, so I've, again, love this community. Can't think of any place else I'd rather be. I take advantage of everything that this community has to offer, from, like Chuck mentioned, the hiking and the dog walking. And I'd be remiss if I did not mention that I'm an avid pickleball player.
Avid.
Avid.
It's serious.
I like to play at least 3, maybe 4 times a week if I can.
Oh, no, you're serious.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those things, it's like flipping a switch. Once you start playing, at least for me, it's like my favorite thing to do.
Okay.
You might be surprised to learn this, but I have a little bit of stress in my job sometimes. And so thankfully there's pickleball out there that is a good, venue for me to relieve some of that stress.
Well, I do believe, according to our friends over in Park and Rec, we have some pretty awesome pickleball facilities around the city.
That is true. I think I've been to all of them, indoor and outdoor, and I would say that, yeah, it's top notch.
At this time, can you please share a little something about each of your departments? Let's go in reverse order. And Polly, can you share with us about APD?
I sure can. So the police department, for those that have not had the privilege of visiting a police department, is right in the downtown area, right next to the Outagamie County Courthouse. We've been at that location for as long as I can remember, recently undergoing, it's actually not so recent now, but a complete remodel back in 2010. So 15 years ago, though the building, quite honestly, still feels quite new inside. Our main purpose or vision really for the police department and for those that work there is to deliver excellence in police service. That's what we embrace. That's what we're about. We have 115 sworn officers that we're authorized to have, though I don't have 115 right now, though we're getting close. Recruitment and retention for us is a challenge, like it is for many police departments, but I'd like to think that we do better than most in terms of being able to keep our employees through retirement and attract really good quality candidates. And so that's something that is a big priority for us. As far as who we serve, the citizens of Appleton, but that also includes anybody that works here, that visits here, comes to Appleton to play. It's really just our main purpose is to keep this community as safe as we can for the people that come and enjoy all that Appleton has to offer. We want them to be comfortable coming here, to feel included, and to be able to go about their day and not be concerned about their safety. As far as our programs are concerned, there are some things that we do, I think, that we do better than many other police departments, one of which is a recent program that was created about 3 years ago, and that's Women in Public Safety. That's something that we're really proud of and is a great recruiting tool for us, and it really is about engaging our young people. And I think that fits well with just the type of agency we've been for a long time, and that those that may not know, our police department back in the early 80s was one of the very first, if not the first, in the state of Wisconsin to have school resource officers. So back then they were police school liaison officers, now they're school resource officers, but it was a really trademark program for us. And then we dove into, that was at the high school level, and then we dove into actually offering elementary school liaison officers shortly before I actually started in the department, which was late 2000, early 2001. And to this day, at 12 school resource officers, it's the largest program in the state for the number of total officers we have. So when you look at the percentage of officers that are in the school resource program, ours is the largest in the state. So it's something that, for us, I think is really a trademark program in the sense that we really take very seriously just how we interact with the youth in our community. And that's something that we take a lot of pride in and invest a lot of time and resources into. In addition to that, we have the Explorer program, which is now called the Cadets. That's a new change within the last month. But that's a long-time program that we've had, again, for community members that are 15 to 20 years of age. And hopefully some of those young people decide to go into a career in public safety, whether it's police or EMS, something along those lines. And so I don't monopolize all of the time from Chuck. The last that I'm going to mention is Kiwanis Cops and Kids. That, along with our neighborhood watch program and our volunteers in policing, we have a lot of programs that really try to engage other community members and get them involved in what's happening at the police department.
And I got to say on the school resource officer program, so I was at Columbus Elementary School, and that was one of the first schools to have the elementary level. It was a PSL at that time, and so Kelly Gady was our PSL, and I just remember that really fondly in terms of the relationship building that happened. And now that I'm in this role, I've seen a different side of that, which is I've done some ride-alongs with the police department, and once, it was maybe 2 or 3 times now, I've done the avenue detail. So this is downtown College Avenue, right in the thick of everything, and prime time is right around bar close. Things tend to get a little busy downtown for our friends in Ph.d. And the number of people who come up to the officers who've been SROs in the past is just incredible. I mean, dozens of people who come up, they spill out of the bars at bar close, but the kind of greetings and catching up that happens between our police officers and these people who are now grown up and living and working in the community, but have these long-standing positive relationships, I think it really just speaks to the emphasis on relationship building that the department has, and I think just has incredible value. And just having seen that firsthand, I think it speaks to the emphasis on connection that the Appleton Police Department has maintained for now generations, and it shows.
Yeah, I can speak personally from having some of those experiences from my time as an SRO. And I was at the elementary schools for a number of years, and then also the alternative high school. And it's really neat to be able to even connect. Now, a lot of those students, and I call them kids, 15 years ago when I was at the alternative high school, all have families of their own. But we've reconnected with many of them still over social media, on my personal Facebook and things like that. And being able to see them find some level of success and for them to reach out and contact me because they wanted to maintain that connection was pretty cool. Probably the best part of this job, to be honest.
Now, public health.
We are located in City Hall here in downtown Appleton. We have about 21 or 22 staff currently, and many sort of part-time folks. So that's about 15 or 16 full-time units there if we're looking at FTE. And our mission is health for all together. And so what that means is we care about the health and well-being of all people within the city of Appleton. And, it's a recognition of differential exposures to, environmental stress, social aspects, policy decisions, et cetera, and it is the focus of the work to identify how do we all move forward in the same way, make sure that everyone has what they need to live their best life, and really that's what that vision is. I love public health, and I love being in this role because every day is a different experience, right? So, one day we're chasing bats, another day we are,
Wait, you don't get to just slide by with that. Did you say chasing bats?
Well, we usually deal with the bats after they're chased. So usually the community resource officers typically will bring us live bats, and so then we deal with them after that. But
For rabies testing.
For rabies testing, yes. So if there is a human contact with a bat, then the state of Wisconsin really wants to know about that. So we'll ship that specimen off to the state lab with the help of our friends in blue.
Yeah, our community service officers, I was remiss in not mentioning what rock stars those young people are.
Amazing.
But yeah, they collect bats, they chase turkeys, they chase deer, you name it. And there's many other species of other animals and things that they're responsible for, but they take on a lot of work for very little pay and they're an amazing group of young people.
They direct traffic.
They
rescue kids out of locked cars.
Ducklings.
Ducklings out of grates. They're kind of like the Swiss Army knife of the police department. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's an amazing crew.
And if we had more time, I have a really great CSO squirrel story, and so
That's a classic.
I will have to come back for a second episode.
That'll be on the special edition.
Exactly.
Appleton Engaged podcast.
We could do a whole podcast on some of these stories.
Absolutely. I think. There's a lot of stories in our public service work. Absolutely. Yeah, so every day is different. We have a number of different core services or core functions, and so that includes our public health nursing, and so that includes a number of different services, probably the most services that we have. So we do vaccine clinics, we do prenatal care coordination, maternal child health, we do lactation support, child passenger safety, car seats, fittings, that kind of thing. We do lead poisoning education and prevention through a number of different programs and staff that take care of that. We have a fee-for-service TB skin test program, and then all of the infectious disease stuff. So environmental health, when people think of public health, they most often think of this role. So it does include things like these, rabies investigations, but it also includes mold or, insect infestation, bed bugs, roaches, that sort of thing. But the bread and butter of that program is our restaurant licensing. So that is, we do that as a service as part of the state of Wisconsin as an agent. But then we also service a number of licenses that are special to the city. So that includes chicken keeping, pigeon keeping, bees, taverns, all of that. So that's a great group of folks that ensure that, as Chief Olsen had said, those that live, work, and play in the city of Appleton are, getting to go out to eat a meal and not have to worry about getting sick. And there's a lot of hard work that goes in on the back end to ensure that happens. And so that's what that program is. We have this is not unique to the city of Appleton, but we have a pretty large weights and measures program. So weights and measures helps keep the cost of local operations, those local licenses. So your gas stations, your grocery stores, those sorts of things, right? Anything that is measuring, so gasoline, scales, that sort of thing. We also have a newer program, our community health program, which came online middle of 2023. And with that, we've created a really interesting program in partnership with the Appleton Police Department, Chief Olsen's team, and other colleagues here in the city. And this basic needs team does a number of different things, but at the heart of it is to provide navigation services to those experiencing homelessness, right? And so with that, we're helping folks navigate, whether it is housing or food needs or clothing or whatever that might look like. And so that's not the city of Appleton providing those services, but ensuring that folks that need those services know exactly where to go. And a lot of times that is a warm handoff. So the program itself, so those are health department staff that are located in the Appleton Police Department in their physical space. And so with that, it provides a nice warm handoff between officers and those needing that help. So, and then last but not least, we do have a public health emergency preparedness program, and so which came online 25 years ago, really aimed at protecting residents against health hazards like a chemical spill or any sort of emergency action that would affect the population health.
Thank you. So what we were hoping to cover within this episode is there's been a lot of changes that have been occurring at the federal level, and we're getting lots of questions about these changes, and our residents are very curious, like, how does that affect us here, living here in Appleton? So can we get some understanding from you both? Both your departments are so public facing. Has any of these things that have been spoken about at this time really changed the way that you're doing or the ways that your department is operating at this time? Is there anything you've had to take into consideration? What's happening?
Well, I think I can start from the police department perspective. The short answer for us is no, nothing's changed in the sense that we continue to go about our business the same as we did a year ago, 2 years ago. Certainly our policies and procedures are always adapting to changes that are happening. But generally speaking, our mission has stayed the same and how we deliver our services hasn't changed. There, as you made mention of, there certainly is a lot of media coverage and a lot of talk about things that you would think would impact how a local police department delivers services. However, many of the things that are being discussed in relation to, say, immigration enforcement, those are federal initiatives that are handled by the federal government. So we've got longstanding relationships with federal partners, to include the Appleton Police Department has task force officers that participate with the ATF, the FBI, and the U.S. Marshals Service. These are relationships that we have been cultivating for the last few years and really benefit the people that live and work here, in the sense that it gives us access to resources that we wouldn't have access to prior to developing those relationships. And having that information at times where we have to make decisions about related to safety and how we keep people safe, and again, being able to pull in resources if, there is something major or critical happening within the city. What I found is that those relationships just are really key factors in delivering the best level of service that we can here. So circling back to the original question, like, what are we doing or what's changed? We will continue to work with our federal partners like we always have. Anytime we get a request for assistance with anything within the city, we evaluate that situation independently each time and take a look at what resources we have available. Does it fit within our mission? Is it legally okay for us to engage in whatever that request is? And then go from there. So just getting to the heart of it, if immigration authorities come to the city of Appleton, we may or may not know about it. We may or may not be asked to assist. And if or when that happens, we will take a look at it at that time, see what resources we have, see if it fits in with all of our policies and procedures, and then make a decision from there how we can cooperate.
I think that it's important what you said about the role that the federal government plays in immigration enforcement is, I think, an important point of emphasis for us, because that is a federal responsibility. And so it's not something that local agencies have a day-to-day responsibility for in their communities. And from a resourcing perspective, I think that's another important thing to point out is, what are the kinds of things that the Appleton Police Department is prioritizing on a day-to-day basis in the community when it comes to law enforcement work?
So our day-to-day responsibilities really entail traffic enforcement, traffic safety, calls for service involving mental health and checking on the welfare of individuals. Certainly fighting crime. So any crimes in progress that we get dispatched to really can take a lot of our resources. At times when we have discretionary time, you might find officers, again, doing additional types of ordinance enforcement, parking tickets, school zone safety, things of that nature. We have warrant lists that we work off of with our local warrants that we might try to pick up individuals that have, again, warrants that judges have issued for their arrest. So, again, like I mentioned previously, if we get a request to assist one of our partners, whether that would be another local law enforcement agency in the Fox Valley. Sometimes we get requests from out of state from law enforcement agencies to assist in either locating an individual or serving a warrant that might be in our city. Each time we get a request like that, we take a look at it and evaluate whether or not we have the time and available resources to assist, so that we can always keep the safety of our staff and of the community at the forefront of these decisions.
So really, as you evaluate the requests, you're keeping in mind core mission of the department and prioritizing the safety of people here in the community, and not diverting resources necessarily to lower priority things or things that would take you away from that core mission on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in terms of the requests from federal agencies, some of the things that we've talked about in the past, oftentimes those requests are related to criminal activity, criminal behavior that is either occurring, suspected to be occurring, or somebody who's wanted for criminal activity being here in the city. Is that typically where we've seen requests from federal agencies like the Marshals Service?
Yeah, that's correct. Again, because of the way that we are
Yeah, it's lean.
It's lean.
Our staffing is lean here at the City of Appleton.
Yeah.
Our PD is 115 sworn for a community of 75,000 people, and so from a staffing perspective, it really takes everything we have to deliver on just core mission every day.
Correct. Yeah. Our resources are always getting pulled in a bunch of different directions day to day. And some of that, I think, is just because we try to be all things to all people. And I can say we don't like to have to tell people no, that we can't do something. We tend to commit as much as we can, and our days are very busy. And so, again, when you have, like you mentioned, an outside resource asking for assistance, sometimes we can help and sometimes we can't. And sometimes we have to say no. But if we have another jurisdiction, I'll say, for example, Milwaukee, because this does happen, where we get a call from a detective or from a supervisor out of the city of Milwaukee saying, hey, we have an individual that's wanted on a homicide that happened in the city, and we believe they're up in Appleton. Can you help us find them? And, those are the types of things where absolutely we will make the time to find the resources that are needed, because that's somebody that is putting the safety of our community at risk by being here. So we will prioritize that in making sure that we have adequate resources to commit to finding and taking somebody like that into custody safely.
Part of the reason why I asked Timber if we could have a conversation with the police department and the health department is because of the deep partnerships between the health department and the police department. And I think that common commitment to public safety and health in the community. And so from a public health perspective, I think it's also worth noting that in Wisconsin, there are relatively few municipal health departments still in existence. A lot of communities have deferred to county health departments, but here in the city of Appleton, we are in 3 counties. So we're in Outagamie County, Winnebago County, and Calumet County. And so the city of Appleton has maintained a public health department. And I, for one, am really glad about that, because it provides our residents here in the city of Appleton with resources that are really specialized to serve this community, this population. And it also has helped us facilitate great partnerships and work within the organization, really integrating the work of public health with other departments here at the city. And I think this partnership around homelessness between the police department and the health department is a really powerful example of what can happen when departments within a municipal government work across boundaries and try to look for common wins. But to this point about health and the questions that have been circulating, there's been a lot of discussion and concerns raised about what's happening or what's reported to be happening at the federal level with respect to public health agencies. So here at the local level, Chuck, can you help us understand, what have you seen so far from a local perspective, and what kind of impact might that be having on the work?
Sure. So sort of as Chief Olsen had said, our day-to-day work does not change. We're still, inspecting our local restaurants and food trucks. We're still ensuring that prenatal care is happening. Through all that, we are not immediately impacted by any of the things that are happening at the federal level. However, there are some things related to if the CDC is not putting out real-time data around the sorts of outbreaks that tend to happen, in a global context, which is information that is gathered from the WHO. If we're not aware of that, does that have an impact? Maybe. But it doesn't affect our core mission, what we do every day.
My sense at this point is that what you just described there and kind of how you wrap that up is generally where we are right now as a municipal government. And that is that we're aware, we're paying very close attention to what's happening with federal changes or potential changes. We're as plugged in as anyone can be, and we're working to understand if there are implications or there are things that we need to do at the local level to adjust or respond or change the way we do things to be responsive. We certainly will, but in the immediate term, the core work of the municipal government continues. And I think that's just important to call out. That's true both from your comments, Chuck, and also yours, Polly, that the day-to-day work that we're doing is continuing. And more importantly, I think the underlying philosophies that guide our work, the missions of our departments and the mission of the city of Appleton is not changed by what's happening or what's being said or what's being reported. And you notice I keep catching myself saying what's happening, because even that is hard for us to grab hold of right now. What actually is happening? And when there is so much information and there's so much circulating in the media and in social media about what people are saying they're seeing or what people are feeling or experiencing, it can be really hard to kind of stand in an objective reality. And that's part of what we're trying to do, even just in this conversation, is share some insight in terms of what's happening really here. And recently, the Appleton Police Department put out a post on social media in response to some reports or a rumor in the community about immigration enforcement activity in the community, and then associated with that, somebody who was raising funds as a result of that. Chief, you worked on putting that information out to the community, but just as you've thought about that more, how have you been thinking about that in particular?
So it just brought to light that, and this was a particular example of somebody that was taking advantage of, I guess, a situation. And we've seen that time and time again, whether it would be GoFundMe pages that pop up, and you can name whatever the issue is that's happening at the time that they latch onto. But what it smells of is somebody trying to take advantage of a situation. And this was another example of that. So by providing an example of a situation that alleged that there was somebody from immigration here arresting somebody and separating that individual from their kids, and that the Appleton Police Department was involved in that arrest, and that we did some things that definitely do not line up with what our mission is in the sense of how we cared for the kids, just really spoke to me in the sense that I knew that I needed to put something out on our social media to address it. We can't certainly address every rumor that happens out there, and these things happen, but this one in particular was one that really bothered me, because if we were to be involved in an arrest and we would help out, say, a federal partner on any situation, whether it's immigration related or not, and we would be taking somebody into custody who's got kids present, we're very sensitive to that and how we handle that situation, how the kids are treated, and all of those things. So to imply that there was anything less than something professional happening during that event is really, to me, what the core issue was.
And the event, as far as we can gather from departmental data, didn't happen in the first place.
It didn't happen in the city of Appleton. Now, could it have happened at one of our partner agencies? It could have. I have no way of determining that, but I can tell you that it did not happen in the city of Appleton, or it did not involve our department.
I think that the fear that people are expressing and experiencing, first of all, is very real. I think that it's completely valid to feel upset by changes or to feel whatever you're feeling in response to what's happening or what's being said right now. But it also, I think, points out that in that anxiety and in that fear, we can become vulnerable. We can become vulnerable to misinformation. We can become vulnerable to scams, people who try to take advantage of these feelings. And so we believe important to share accurate information with the community when we know about these things, to the extent that we know. But as Chief mentioned, there is so much churn and so much noise that it's really not possible to address every single instance and every single thing that is said on every platform all over the internet. But I think really it's important for us to emphasize what we are about here in the city of Appleton and things that we emphasize as a community, whether it's our public health department or our police department. We do our best work when we are connected with our community, when we have strong relationships, when we build and maintain trust in our community. That's when we can do our best work as a local government. And that is what we've done for years, and it's something that we fully intend to maintain as we move forward. amid all the uncertainty that is happening, we will continue to do our best to hold to those things. I cannot emphasize that enough. We remain committed to doing the work in the way that we've been doing this work because we see results and the community feels those results. And so if things change, if we get new information, if we need to adjust our approach, we will share that information with the community. We'll let people know to the extent we can. We'll let people know what's happening. And if something's going to change significantly, we want to make sure people are informed. But until then, it doesn't pay to speculate. It doesn't pay to run through hypothetical situations because, as we've also seen, things are changing rapidly, daily, hourly, quarter hourly, and
by the minute.
And so it doesn't pay to speculate, and it doesn't pay to run through hypothetical situations. But I also just want to say, I also don't believe that making pronouncements in my role as mayor, making grand pronouncements about things that we're going to do or not do as a city, either in compliance or defiance of a federal administration, without even having a clear sense of what it is we're responding to or the boundaries of our authority, statutorily or otherwise, of even acting on the pronouncements that are being made. I am not going to do that. But what I can firmly commit to is continuing to focus on the work of the city of Appleton and our core mission and our departmental missions that really all come down to being connected with our community, building and maintaining trust, and providing for the foundational things that we all need to live well. And that's what we're about here. That's what we're going to continue to be about. And we do that for everybody who is in our community. And that will continue to be our emphasis and our point of focus as we move forward.
I'm going to be honest, what I heard from all three of our leaders here is that it's business as usual.
But we are paying close attention to what is happening. And we are listening to the concerns and the issues that are happening in the community. And we are doing our best to continue to be engaged with people and connected as we all learn more and as we work through whatever we need to work through. So it's business as usual from a day-to-day operations perspective. But I would also say that we are paying attention and we are plugged into what's going on as best as anybody can be. And I care deeply about what is happening in our country and in our community, and we as public servants do. And so business as usual, but not to suggest that there's a emotional detachment from all of the emotions and feelings that people are having in the community, and on a very wide spectrum. The full spectrum of views is represented here in the city of Appleton. And so that's also part of our work here as a local government, is recognizing that we serve everybody in our community. And right now, the full spectrum of feelings and opinions are represented by somebody or groups of folks in this community right now. And so our responsibility is to make sure that we continue to serve the community with the kind of compassion and professionalism that Appletonians and our visitors have come to expect. That's our work.
Can I add something too?
Yeah.
Just in listening to what you were just saying, Mayor, it brought to mind that, when you talk about paying attention, how important that is for both of our staff. So from Health Department and from Ph.d. I mean, from Ph.d.'s perspective, we're in the business of mediating disputes sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. De-escalating behaviors, helping find resolutions to problems. And you can't do that effectively if you're not aware of what's happening, not just locally, but across the country and where people's minds and thoughts might be at. So our staff has to really be tuned in so that they can appropriately assess, why somebody's behavior might be a certain way because of some of these other external contributing factors that might be influencing positively and or negatively how a situation is, happening. So I think it's important to note that, yes, we have to stay very tuned in. It's intentional, it's important, and we know that it can drive a lot of the types of calls for service that we're responding to.
Is there anything that the community can do to be helpful at this time?
From a safety perspective, I always tell people, if you've heard the term, if you see something, say something. And I know it's kind of a catchy phrase, but it really encompasses a lot of what drives safety in a community. And that is you don't just turn a blind eye if you see something that you think maybe a little bit off or is unusual or, just gives you that feeling in your gut that something's wrong. All too many times I've heard people say, I was going to call, but, and then they didn't call, and that may or may not have been a sign of something big or event that was going to happen or something small. But regardless, that's my ask of our community members is that don't ever hesitate to call us if you need us. And there is never a call that's too small or an issue that's too small for us to handle. So we wanted to handle those small issues so they don't turn into large issues. So please pick up the phone and call us if anything has you worried or you feel like it's something that we should know about.
Yeah, and I spent a lot of time thinking about how I would answer that question as Chief Olsen was talking. One of the major things that we keep seeing over and over again is that mental health continues to be one of the largest issues that folks face. And our own local data show that. We see that in the Tri-County area. We see that in a national context. And so the idea of social connectedness, belonging, all of that is so critical to mental health. And we also know that our needs for mental health is really outstripping, provider capacity. You need to, build some capacity that way in terms of, getting more providers in the pipeline in a national context. But what we can do locally is just check on people. We have families, we have friends, and, I think we need to spend more time just checking in with people, because if you don't have mental health, you don't have anything. You might have other factors that might, contribute to that, but poor mental health also leads to a number of poor health outcomes. And again, it's one of the chief concerns that we're seeing, and it's one of the easiest ways that people can make a real difference in the city of Appleton.
Yeah, I know I'm supposed to be maybe co-hosting a little bit, but I want to take this one too. In times that are contentious, there, I think, is a tendency or there's a impulse to turn away from each other and to become more insular. And I think that right now we need to do the opposite. Now is a time when we need to turn toward community, and we turn toward each other, and we look out for each other here in the city of Appleton. I think that's something that makes our community special, is that people, and I too am a lifelong Appletonian with deep roots in the community, and to me, one of the defining aspects of life here is that people care about the community, and they care about each other. And that has stood the test of time. And that is about turning toward each other and investing in our community and in our connections. And that looks different for everybody. But I think that's a really important thing for people to think about and to be doing right now. And whatever that looks like, if that's playing pickleball or going to a bowling league that you've been skipping, or joining a book club, or checking on a neighbor, or joining a neighborhood watch, or the other hundreds and thousands of things that you can do to be connected in this community that we feature on this podcast every week. There are so many opportunities, but now is the time to turn toward each other, to be with each other, and to share space with people in this community where we live. We live in a country, we live in a state, but we here in the city of Appleton, we live in the city of Appleton. This is home, and the people who live around us are our neighbors. And we have so much more in common than different. And as people in this community, so much more in common than different. And if we can hold on to that, recognize that, emphasize it, I think we're going to be a lot better off. I think that we are going to be able to weather the challenges that may come so much better if we do that than if we turn away from each other, if we isolate, if we ignore or we emphasize the differences that divide us. We don't have to do that. That is a choice that we get to make. And so my encouragement to people in the community is use that ability to make a choice. to choose community, to choose being together, to choose looking out for each other, and continuing to help make this a great place to live, to make a life, to have a career, to raise a family, to age. Be a part of that.
At this time, I just want to remind the Appleton Engaged listeners that we have these departments here, including the Mayor's Office Department, our Health Department, and our Police Department, and you can find ways to reach out to them on the city's website. So please go there if you have any questions about the programs that were mentioned earlier, if you want to reach out to any of our leadership and ask them more questions, more in-depth questions, we are here to serve. Please feel free to reach out. But now we got to really get to the important part of the Appleton Engage, the real business at hand, and that is it is shout out time. So shout outs, Chuck.
I'd like to give a shout out to my team who is in it every day and making the biggest difference that they can. And shout out to the Board of Health who, a bunch of volunteers that, spend their time, talking about dangerous animals and other things. And so just really important work that both groups do. So just want to give a shout out to them.
I guess that means I'm up, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that the APD team is the best team in the state of Wisconsin for delivering police service. I like to tell them that as often as possible. So here's another opportunity for me to do that. And then the not too frequently recognized Police and Fire Commission. So very few people really understand what the role of a PFC is in the state of Wisconsin, and we can save that for another podcast. But, there are 5 people that are appointed by the mayor that volunteer their time to help on a number of issues in both the police and the fire department. And in this time right now where hiring, like we talked about, hiring and retention in public service is a challenge, they've been called upon for countless hours to help us navigate the hiring process. So I just want them to know how important that they are to the city of Appleton and to the police department.
Do I get one?
You do, Mayor.
All right. I want to give a shout out to kids in our community. And the reason I want to give a shout out to kids, there's so many people I want to give a shout out to and want to heap praise on, but I want to give a shout out to kids because kids are paying attention to what's going on too. They're paying attention to how we're feeling. They pay attention to the words we use and the ways we treat each other, the ways we talk about people. They're paying attention. They're plugged in. They're feeling it too. When we're anxious, they're feeling it. And so I want to give a shout out to kids and say, you're doing great. Keep going. And we will be okay together. We will be okay together. And in giving a shout out to kids, that's also a little bit of a call to action for us grown-ups in the community. Kids are paying attention. They're paying attention to how we carry ourselves, how we treat each other. And we, along with having the choice to turn to our community, we have a choice about how we treat each other and the words that we use toward each other and the ways we talk about what is happening in the world in a way that is compassionate and understanding and that helps raise up the next generation of people who are going to be sitting in our chairs and doing our work and continue to make this a great place to be. So a shout out to kids, hang in. And yeah, thank you, Timber, for having us on and letting us be a part of the podcast.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sepers, Chief Olsen, Mayor Woodford, for spending time with us here at Appleton Engaged. Now, Appleton Engaged listeners, thank you for spending time with us and giving us your minds and ears. You know we are a work in progress. I can't stress how important this conversation was. We want to make sure that our community is an informed community. When we have an informed community, it is a community that has trust built within it. And that's what we try to do here at Appleton Engaged. Now, being a work in progress, we need your help to become better. So there are a couple of things you can do. If you would like to be a guest here on Appleton Engage, please reach out to us. If you would like to recommend a guest, please reach out to us. And if there are new questions or segments you think we should add to the podcast, please reach out to us. And you can reach out to us at belonging@appletonwi.gov. Once again, That is belonging@appletonwi.gov. Also, we are trying to become the #1 podcast in Wisconsin, and we think the more eyes and ears that learn about this amazing resource known as Appleton Engaged, the more informed and connected our community is. So while you're listening to us, take a moment, hit that subscribe button. If there are stars to pick, give us 5 stars, never 4. And also, if you've got a few more moments, just go ahead and fill out that review. These things help increase our analytics, and the better our analytics, the more residents of Appleton get to learn about this amazing resource known as Appleton Engaged.
Well, thank you again. Appreciate the opportunity to get together and spend some time with some great colleagues here at the City of Appleton. And as I said before, as we learn more, we will certainly share with the community and look forward to having more conversations, because we've got some other aspects of municipal government that we want to cover. And so we'll be coming back around with some more colleagues to talk more about impacts and the kind of work that a couple more city departments do. But in the meantime, stay thoughtful, stay curious, and stay engaged.